Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Susan Lynn. I'm a psychic and a medium, and I'm a channel, which means that, well, I've got a whole group of spirit guides right here next to me that channel through me. Now, I have videos on my regular channel that show me channeling 100%, basically giving up my faculties, my body, my mouth, my everything to these guides so they can speak through me. But we sort of like this kind of relationship we got going on where I'm 40%, they're 60%, seems to work out pretty well. So this is how I do my videos. Now, I also do videos on metaphysical topics as well, but today is politics. Is politics, because you know what? My spirit guide team have got something to say and they won't let me sleep. So I finally decided, okay, I'm going to give them the floor to say what they have to say because frankly, I'm tired of talking to them at 2 a.m. So here we are. They want me to do a video on this gentleman that dashed across the border with North Korea from South Korea to North Korea. His name is Travis King. He's a private, I believe, first class. I don't know that much about Mr. King or Private King other than the very first news reports. Now, it's not every day that a soldier dashes across the demilitarized zone into North Korea. Frankly, it's not every day that anybody dashes across that zone to North Korea. Generally speaking, people are trying to get out of North Korea, right? So why is this a big deal? Why do the spirit guides have me like this, my pajamas, like Susan, like I'm going to get up at 2 a.m. and do a video. Sometimes I think they want me to, but that's another story for another video. So today we're going to talk, I'm going to allow them to explain to you why this is so important. Now, some of you guys are, they're saying, Jesus, something of history, fans of history. You guys would understand how important this is to the United States government, that one of our biggest enemies, right? I mean, truly, North Korea is one of our biggest foes. They have one of ours. They have a United States soldier, and that soldier chose of his own accord to dash across the demilitarized zone and join up with North Korea. So I'm going to just be honest with you and tell you guys, this is code red alert. This is bigger in the State Department than anything else that's happened. My guides are telling me in the last 50 years. Now, this is what the guides are saying. If you disagree with me, feel free to do so, but please understand, Susan is just carrying the mail. I'm just delivering the message. If you want to disagree, some of you know what I'm about to say. 1-800-SPIRIT Guides, press 1 for complaints. Please pay attention to the menu because some of the items have changed recently. Okay. I'm just telling you what they're telling me. I sometimes Susan has to interject, and that's why I keep 40% stake in this process, because the spirit guides don't understand humans really, and they don't really care anyway. Now let's dive in. Now, why did this guy do this? That he was trying to prove something to the United States. He had an axe to grind with the United States. He had this energy of I'll show them. This energy of I need to get attention. I need people to know what's going on. Something is broken and I'm going to bring attention to it. In this way, he was feeling that he's going to be a hero, that he's going to be the person who takes the covers or takes and pulls the covers back or the blinds back, right? And exposes something. This is what he was thinking. Now, the only backstory that I know, and it's important, is that he had gotten in trouble. He was stationed in South Korea. He had gotten in trouble there. Allegedly, he had gotten into some kind of physical altercation with South Korean citizens. And allegedly, he did some damage to a police car, a South Korean police car. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. South Korea does not play. They do not truck any kind of they don't have all this freedom that we have in the United States. They just don't. The citizens are expected to act in a certain manner. It's a much tighter society as far as the rules, and the citizens follow the rules more in mass, more as a group. Okay. So this young man was detained by the United States military. He was thrown into jail. There's been various reporting on what that was, whether it was hard labor, whether it was by the South Korean government or the United States government. It's all mixed up. But we do know that he was detained for some period of time, like perhaps several weeks to a month. Now, we also know that the guides are saying an attaché or something that starts with a D. Some person showed up, a detail. Some person showed up and retrieved him out of that situation, drove him to the airport, left him at the airport. He was supposed to fly back to the United States, where, according to the early reporting of the military, he was going to be released from the military. So he wasn't going to have any other, rulings or any other punishment, but he was going to be discharged, maybe dishonorably discharged. I don't know. Now, here's where things get interesting. Instead of going into the airport and getting on the plane and, like putting all of this behind him, regardless of whose fault it was, this gentleman gets in some sort of transportation and has the transportation drive him to the demilitarized zone, where he joins a tour. Whether he got the tour in advance, he paid for the tour, however he got in the tour, he's in the tour, from which the tour goes to the demilitarized zone as part of its tour. This gentleman, upon getting close to the demilitarized zone, sprints for it. Now, what's interesting is this guy is in a group of public people. He's in a whole big group of people who see the whole thing. And many witnesses say that he laughed out loud and then ran for the border. So that, to me, means premeditation. The guides want to give a little bit different backstory. And then they want to also pull it into, believe it or not, Donald Trump. Stay with me, folks. Focus here, right? Focus. Okay, here's what's going down. This guy, here's the bottom line. I believe that he was radicalized. I believe that this guy had been in contact with someone from North Korea. It could have been a honeypot situation. It could have been a woman or a man or who knows what. I don't know, that contacted him and set up a relationship with him and then poisoned his mind. This gentleman is African American, and it is true. It's not hard to. America is a messy place, right? Democracy is messy, and we haven't been the best stewards of our democracy, in my opinion, right? We ever since the Civil War. After that, well, things kind of have been swept under the rug, you might say, right? So there's a lot of racism. There's a lot of reasons why this guy could honestly, with every right, feel that the United States has given him a raw deal or treated him poorly. But this is the energy. The energy is, I've been abused or disabused, or, I haven't been treated right. And I'm going to show you. Right? I'm going to show you why I wasn't treated right. I'm going to show you how broken the system is. This is the energy behind him, is I'm going to be the person to unveil the problems in America. But what happens is these foreign actors, these North Korea, or even Russia, or any number of countries, Iran, Saudi Arabia, China, any number of countries that have every desire to take the United States of America down several notches. What they've been doing is radicalizing people. Now, stay with me, because I'm going to tell you guys, the guides have been telling you this for a couple of years now. What happens is these kids go into these chat rooms, these gamer chat rooms. And what's interesting is that, when I was growing up, there were pen pals, right? Maybe you were a pen pal with somebody from Ireland, right? But you weren't talking to them for 3 hours in the middle of the night. You weren't creating a bond with them over these games that would be a real friendship, that would possibly expand years, right? This is what's happening, guys, in the United States, and frankly, the Western world is being a little too slow to wake up to this real potential threat. A lot of these kids are spending inordinate amount of time with people that are giving them a lot of BS, a lot of propaganda, finding out where their little personality potential flaw is, where their insecurity is. Once they find out where their insecurity is, they just start picking at it, and they just start exaggerating it. And then they start separating them from their parents, separating them from their friends, separating them from their life. And then saying, hey, you need to be friends with me. I'm the one that understands you, right? I get you. I believe you. You know what? You're right. You have every reason to be upset about this, right? These are radicalizers. These are people who radicalize. They could be pretending to be 14, but they're 28. There's no difference between that and the people that would go into the chat rooms and be 28 and talking to a 9-year-old. There's no difference. This is all the same energy, right? So what the guides told me is that this guy, this young man, was radicalized at a young age. So this grooming, and this is what it is, right? It's grooming. This grooming was started when he was a teenager, and it started very slowly, drip, 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 right? And again, there's a lot of truth. It's easy. It's quite easy to radicalize an African-American or somebody that feels marginalized and is marginalized by their country or their society. It's really easy to do that. You just tell them their confirmation bias, right? Their confirmation bias is that I get discriminated against. Happens to be true. And then you take that and you exaggerate it, and then you turn the person against the society that is ostracizing them, right? And then they become radicalized, okay? So this is really important for us to understand, because this guy was a U.S. soldier. Now, he was a young soldier. It's not like he had, a lot of experience or had a lot of, secrets that he could tell, or a lot of information that he could bestow. But it doesn't really matter, because now North Korea has a United States soldier. This is making the State Department literally lose their minds. Again, it doesn't matter if this guy has anything at all, any secrets, know nothing. He can absolutely know nothing. He is a trophy. Do you know how much he's worth? Do you know what the United States will do to get him back? Anything. They'll do anything to get him back. Capitulate on nuclear, capitulate on sanctions, potentially even work with an ally to release some sort of North Korean spy somewhere. Yeah, all that and more, stuff that we don't even ever hear about. All of that's on the table. Matter of fact, everything is on the table, because we got to get this guy back. Because if we don't, he's going to be making, and he probably already is going to be making a lot of propaganda videos where he's going to say terrible things about the United States. Think back to Vietnam War, to those prisoners of war that were made to say bad things about the United States. Think about the people that have been imprisoned and kidnapped by Iran that were made to say terrible things about the United States. This is what this guy's getting ready to be doing 24/7. He's getting ready to be renouncing. And the scary thing is, when I go into his energy, he wants to renounce the United States. He wants to hurt the United States. He wants them, I guess that's me, except for this is the guide speaking. He wants them to feel his pain. I want to make you hurt the way you hurt me. This is this vindictive vindication energy that this gentleman has. Yeah, I'll do your video because they need to hear all this, that the United States is racist, that the United States is terrible, that the United States military takes advantage of us, right? He's going to air all his pleas, all his anger that he's been cultivating, like a little garden in his, soul, his garden of complaints. He's been cultivating and cultivating them. And then he found somebody to listen to him. And perhaps this was a woman. Perhaps this was a honeypot situation, which is what they call women spies that trick men into falling in love and then, giving away some kind of information. But the honeypot can be anything, you guys. A honeypot can be another man. It could be, sadly, a child. It can be anything, right? So I don't know what is beeping, y'all. Do y'all hear that? Okay, I'm going to keep going. Hopefully it'll stop. I don't know who's beeping. It's crazy, man. This is my normal setup that I brought from Texas. So there's nothing that should be beeping. Okay, I don't know. Trip City. Okay, let me get back into that channel. Okay. So unfortunately, this guy, I mean, he has this energy of this anger energy, all of this stuff, wanting to be heard, and no one was listening to him. Now, again, I want to tell you guys, I think this kid, this young man, has suffered racism. I think perhaps he's been unfairly treated, right? I get it, that nobody's challenging that, dude, but I think there's other options. I think there's other options than sticking it to Uncle Sam by running across the DMZ to one of our biggest foes. I think you could have had other options, right? You could have got out of the military. You could have become an advocate, but this is what happens, right? Their brain is poisoned. So why is this so important, right? Like, why are the guides waking me up 2 nights in a row and just talking nonstop about this? Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because this type of grooming is happening in our military. You guys remember the guy who got arrested for taking those top secret documents? Remember that? The National Guardsman, right? He was groomed. He was in a gamer chat room with these people from other countries. Okay, we're not going to hear all the details because, frankly, the United States of America doesn't want everybody to know this stuff, right? The United States of America would rather all of this happen on the down low. They don't want to be embarrassed. Again, it's more than being embarrassed. It's threat. It's a threat to us. If the United States of America is embarrassed, that makes us weak. If we're weak, that means you have more situations where perhaps a country like Iran puts one of their ships in the way of grain transports. Maybe China flies a plane over our water, right? It invites them to be aggressive. So we don't want to look weak. We don't want to have to deal with these things, right? We don't want to have to shoot down their spy balloon. We don't want to have to bogey up our aircraft and scramble them and get them to go out and stand off some other country's aircraft that's in disputed airspace. We don't want that. But when we look weak, we get it. That's what we get. We get a lot of threats to our agency. Okay. So that's why the United States wants to keep this quiet on the down low. Okay. So it's more than just being embarrassed. It truly is a threat to the United States. So we have a problem, you guys. Now, I would just say to you very briefly that if you're a grandmother and you're have custody of a grandchild or a great grandchild, we all need to be having conversations with these kids about discernment and trust. It's kind of hard. The guides are just showing me it's kind of hard when you have that kid that's got that chip on the shoulder that just feels like, regardless of whether it may not look like reality, but in their world, they get the short end of the stick. They get treated worse than their brother or their sister. They get less. They get harassed more. They have more chores to do. This is the perfect kind of personality for them to pick on. This is the perfect kind of personality for them to say, yeah, your mother is terrible. Your grandfather's terrible. They should never make you mow the lawn. You know, it sounds silly to you and I, right? Not silly to them. To them, they found an ally. That's the break. That's the cracking of that personality, the persona. That's where the crack starts. Once the crack is there, then they just start making it bigger. And they do this when these kids are younger, when these kids are, the guides are telling me it can start when the kids are like 12, 14, 18, 24, doesn't matter, right? But the earlier they get the kid, the more control they have of that kid at the appropriate age. Now, the other thing I want to share with you, because this has been reported. So the guides were telling me at 2:00 in the morning that there's like, they wanted to say to you that there's the physical, God, what do they call it? The physical evidence and then the spiritual evidence. So they want to make a line. They want you to understand that sometimes what I'm telling you is, this is what the spirit guides are saying. Okay, maybe that you take that with a grain of salt. Well, you should take everything with a grain of salt. We're talking about discernment today. But some of this is physical evidence. So it's physical evidence that this guy, that those people in that tour heard him go, ha, ha, and then run into the DMZ. That's physical evidence. But it's also physical evidence that some of these Proud Boys or these militia people were recruited before they went into the army or the military. Before. So they were recruited in these rooms, in these gamer rooms, for lack of a better description. They were recruited over a period of time, and they were convinced to go into the military, and specifically go into the military trying to get specific roles in the military. Right? So these people were, in this case, groomed by these militias, and the militias said, hey, we need you, right? When you turn 18, I want you to go in the military, but I want you to get this particular training. Do your 4 years, whatever it is, come out. We got a job for you. This is documented thanks to the Jan 6 committee. This is documented. Now, they are also grooming people who are in the military and are just dissatisfied, upset, can't get ahead, feeling put out, feeling, overworked or underpaid, undervalued, right? So something interesting they're telling me right now, the guides told me this about a year ago, and I never understand. Some of the things they tell me, I'm like, why are you telling me this? One of the things they told me was, our military is complacent. Our military is complacent. You can't have a body of people this big and leave them to their own devices. They need to, we're talking about the infantry, right? When I'm not talking about military members that have jobs that do every single day, right? They fly a jet every single day. They make sure the jet lands every single day. They make meals every single day. They have some sort of job that is their identity, right? It's their mission. The guides were telling me there's a big part of the military, the infantry, that doesn't have a mission, and it's dangerous. They're watching Fox News 24/7. They're on their own. They just do war games a couple of times a year. Maybe they have certain things they have to do, but you have to understand this. The mission to protect the United States of America. It's different when you're at war. When you're at war after 9/11, all those kids joined the Marines and joined the armed. Hey, I'm going to go do my duty. I'm going to protect America. I'm standing for America. Here we are now, and these complacent soldiers don't feel like they're protecting America. They don't even like America. They don't like the service. Then they're not happy with anything. Why? Because they can't get ahead. They're not getting paid enough to get ahead. They're getting paid just enough to barely make it. They're separated from their wives, their husbands, their families. They're separated from a normal life. And they get out of the military, and there's nothing for them crushing unemployment, crushing depression, crushing rates of suicide. This is a problem, you guys. This means that our military is at risk for being picked off to become this gentleman private king. This is code red. Code red. The guides would also tell me to tell you that when Biden took over, when Biden became president, I don't know, not long after, maybe a month after, very, very soon after, the entire military, the Marines, the Air Force, the Navy, the Coast Guard, everybody, the Army, everybody had one day where they stood down. They didn't do anything. Everything came to a halt. Now, why do you think that was? It was for what we just said, that the military is potentially full of people that don't like the United States. And they were trying to get everything back in alignment, right? To get these commandants, to get the officers, to get everybody back on the same page, right? So what you're about to see, and then they just talked to me about Tuberville, right? Tuberville is keeping our military officers who very much deserve these raises and these rises in rank, keeping them from getting their rise in rank. And those people represent what we would call intellectual property. They have knowledge. My God, we've the United States Army or whatever has brought this person through the ranks. We've got them to the super high rank. They know a lot. We've invested a lot in them. It's like having an employee that you've invested 20 years into, and you're really, this is the best employee ever. And they're rising up and they're star pupil, and they don't get the raise. So they jet. They go into the private sector where they're going to make more money anyway. What do we lose? All of that intellectual knowledge. All of that experience is gone. What does that do? Destabilize our military, right? You can't convince me otherwise. This man is trying to destabilize our military. It's not about abortion. It's about destabilizing our military, right? So these people are not for the United States of America. Tuberville is not. I have to be careful about what I say. He's not batting for our team. Let's just put it that way. Okay. And that makes him dangerous. So now they've told you why all this is happening. The last thing I'm going to say, the last two things is what's going to happen with all this. But before that, I'm going to talk to you about Trump. So this is really interesting because this is the same energy, you guys. This is exactly the same energy that is around Trump. It's the same energy that if Trump absconded or defected to another country, it's the same energy. This is what I keep telling you guys. It's code red if this guy does this. It's embarrassing and destabilizing to the United States of America. And frankly, it's going to leave us a black eye we're never going to get over. Never. We're going to go around it. We're going to go past it, but it's always going to be there in history. It's always going to be, the guides are calling it the Benedict Arnold. So it's interesting to me when I go into this gentleman's energy, this private's energy, it's the same energy as Donald Trump. I'll show them I've been treated bad. I've been treated horribly. I'm having a witch hunt against me. Same energy as this private. I'm telling you, similar energy. I'll show them similar energy, right? They'll have to beg me to come back. Similar energy. They'll move heaven and earth to protect me because I'm a president, because I'm a United States soldier. It's the same freaking energy, you guys. So now I'm kind of on red alert about whether or not Trump is going to pull this. I do think that he's thinking about it. I get the guides are telling me he's been in communication with someone in a different country. I have told you guys on many occasions that I do see the Crown Prince of SA, the country SA, holding like this. It's like you would hold like something by the scruff of its neck, and saying, did you lose this? Right. And I wasn't sure, this was over, the last year. I wasn't sure if they weren't talking about classified documents or Trump himself. Right. And I told you guys, I saw that the Crown Prince like literally calls Biden on the bat phone, like on, calls the White House, and Biden is like, whoa, no. See, I'm the president. We do things differently here. You need to go through diplomatic channels. You need to go through the State Department, and then the State Department will brief me. And then I will, if I see fit, contact you. Right. By MBS trying to give this to Biden, that's a play. That's you lost this, Biden, right? That's going to make public airwaves. That's a big move. Imagine the headlines, right? That's a big move. Now, what does that also tell you? It also tells you that Trump isn't going to be allowed to stay there. If he goes there, they're just going to deliver him back. Now, they're not going to deliver him back with no strings attached, just like this soldier. There's going to be all kinds of strings attached. We're going to be giving them whatever they want and then some more to get that guy back, both guys, right? So because he has free will, 45 has free will, and also because he's BS crazy, some days I go into his energy and all he wants is a hamburger, and other days I go into his energy and he's talking to somebody in the country of SA, right? I mean, he's all over the place. It's very hard to predict what he will do. Perhaps it was very hard to predict what this gentleman, what this private would do. Maybe he was being groomed, but maybe he was on the fence about whether or not he really would defect. Like, I really feel like he was being groomed, but I feel like he was not quite sure whether he would do it. And he made that snap decision at the airport because he had to. He had to make a decision. Am I going to do it or am I not? Because once I get on this plane, he's not going to have the money. You know what I mean? He's not going to have the money to fly to South Korea. He's there, whether they used a honeypot, whether they use whatever I think they used a lot of things. I think they coerced him. They poisoned his mind. They used fellow people, fellow men, fellow women. They used all of it. Okay. So it's just interesting that this is linking up with Donald Trump. I can't tell you. I can tell you that two things. He's likely to try it. He's likely to get on the plane. I'm laughing because I just saw him get on the plane and get in his seat and have his, Diet Cokes or French fries or whatever it is, And for some reason, I see Walt not there. I see Walt there, the rug that he is. And then what I see is the pilots going, "Oh, sir, we're so sorry. There seems to be a malfunction with the engine," because those people are accessories, right? We don't really know everything, do we? We don't really know if they took his passport. We don't really know if he's got some sort of order to stay within the United States, right? We don't really know everything. A lot of this is sealed. But I see the pilot going, I'm not flying to Saudi. Are you crazy? Or really where I saw him going was to Cuba, which is even crazier, which is another communist crazy country, right? Similar. See how the similarities between this? I've always seen Trump going to Cuba either by boat or plane, because it's very close to Florida, where he lives. And from Cuba, he can do anything. I mean, he could easily get a plane to SA or wherever he wanted to go. Honestly, a number of countries, would take him in, a number, because now they've got captured a United States president. And it's the same energy. Like this guy, this private, he thinks he really believed it. He believed all that. I feel bad for him because he's going to be treated worse than a dog, worse than, I love dogs, but worse than a mosquito, worse than a gnat. He has nothing. He has no significance. He has nothing. He will literally be sleep deprived. He will be kept in cold. He will be kept in hot. He will be broken down. All that anger that they helped ignite in him, they will diffuse it. He will have that blank look that those people do that become prisoners of war, that say whatever they need to say about the country that they were taken from, right? So he's got a terrible time ahead of him. And that's the same thing with Trump. He's not going to be celebrated. He's not going to be given a palace or a palatial existence. He's going to be treated like a prisoner, because that's exactly what he will be. So the only thing I think he could get away with potentially more likely is a boat. But even that, I'm not 100% sure that he could do it. And you guys want to talk about his Secret Service detail. There are some that are trustworthy and some that aren't. And if you guys come on, what they just showed me was Epstein. Supposedly there's video cameras. Supposedly there was a guard, but nobody saw anything. Nobody did anything. And he killed himself. So if you think these people are trustworthy, right? Again, I think we buy into these, normalcies. They're not trustworthy. You can easily distract them, pay them off, whatever. So that's a possibility. Now, how does this all end with the kids and the grooming? I mean, and it's funny that we're talking about grooming, right? Because here's this Sound of Freedom movie, which is, I already got a bunch of people screaming at me about it. And I don't care what you say. Yes, child trafficking and child sex abuse is absolutely a thing. It's a terrible thing. It's not happening from roving gangs or whoever this movie thinks it is. It's happening from the coach, from the priest, the preacher, the parent, the teacher. It's happening from people who know these kids. And that's what the data says. Yes, it's a problem. Yes, we need to deal with it. But that movie is meant to scare you and make you think that your fellow citizens are all a bunch of pedos. They're not. They're not. It's a terrible situation, and we need to do more to deal with it, for sure. So same thing with this grooming. It's a terrible situation, and we're going to crack down on it. And what's going to end up happening is we're going to lose our freedoms. I've told you guys this a bunch already. Right now, you have the freedom to get in your little chat room and talk to it's going to be not going to be easy, but talk to ISP, an internet address that's perhaps from some country. And in the future, they're not going to do that. They're not going to be able to have access. We're going to block those ISPs. We're going to block those countries. Now, your problem you have is that you can get a thing, and I don't remember the name of it, but it's basically an internet sort of a firewall that you can use to change your location. So I can put one on my computer right now, and my computer, if you're connecting to me, you think I'm in Canada, but I'm not, right? So it's going to be hard. This isn't going to be easy. So guess what? Then we go to education. What are they doing to our education system, you guys? The same thing they're doing that Tuberville is doing to our military, dismantling it. Because we need to get into these schools, in grade school, in elementary school, and we need to teach these kids what it's like to be groomed. If somebody says these things to you, you need to pay attention. We need to teach them for all the reasons, for the predatory reasons, for the grooming, the radicalization. The guides have been telling you, these kids that all of a sudden grab a gun and start shooting people, radicalized online by these countries. It's all the same thing. Why is MTG showing naked pictures of Hunter Biden on the congressional floor and then emailing her constituents these naked pictures of Hunter Biden? Is she playing for our team? No, she's playing for a different country. Tuberville's playing for a different country. The attack is from all angles. From all angles. It's taken over the Congress, the Senate. It's taken over our SCOTUS, our judges. It's taken over our kids, our military. And certainly it's taken over a bunch of white dudes who feel that they're being replaced. God forbid, right? So it's this insidious propaganda, radicalization that's happening all across the United States. And frankly, it's happening in Canada. It's happening in Japan. It's happening in Europe. It's happening in Australia. It's happening everywhere because these countries have perfected this. They know exactly what button to push to make an Israeli upset, to make a African-American person in the United States upset, to make a white dude in America upset, to make a gay person upset, to make anybody. They literally have like the cheat code. They have the cheat code for every type of person, every type of culture, every type of socioeconomic level. They know, oh, let's dial in. Here it is. Send. Boom. Triggers. Message received. Trigger alerted. Then that person goes off. Right? And it's happening even in the Democratic Party. Again, back to the sound of freedom. This is kind of being an agitator in the Democratic Party. Manchin is an agitator in the Democratic Party. The No Labels Party is an agitator in the Democratic Party. These people that run for Democratic office, like Sinema and this other young lady from Louisiana, and then switch to Republican overnight, are agitators. They are foxes in the hen house. They've been radicalized. Now, what do we do about it, right? How do we fix it? If you know, Susan, you're saying, well, we're effed, right? Our educational system is going up in flames. The military is going up in flames. What do we do about this? We can't trust the courts, blah, blah, blah. You told me everything was going to be fine, and now you're telling me everything is crazy. What I'm trying to tell you is that we have to know. You cannot stick your head in the sand about this anymore. I can't stick my head in the sand about this anymore. We have to know about it. We have to be aware of it in our own lives because it's happening even in our own lives. The same thing I see on Twitter. This woman, turns out it wasn't a woman, and it turns out it didn't look anything like her, but they used a pretty picture of a blonde white lady. And then this blonde white lady and her account on Twitter that got to be tens of thousands of people following her, she said everything we wanted to hear. Trump is terrible. Trump's a traitor. Trump's a criminal. She just fed us everything we wanted to hear. What is that, folks? Confirmation bias. She told us what we wanted to hear. I was right there with everybody. Like that post. Yep. Haha. Like that post. Yeah, that's true. Turns out this woman wasn't even a woman, was a man who had 2 or 3 accounts. He was doing the same thing to the Republicans as he was doing to the Democrats, getting them frothed up, getting them totally like just frothing at the mouth, but also feeding their confirmation bias so that we would trust that account, right? So then what happens is once she's gotten our trust, and we've been following this account for 6 months, and literally this account is posting 2 or 3 times a day, red meat for the Democrats, red meat for the Democrats. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Then the account seemingly slips up and says something that falls flat. Like it was actually the first thing that did was she said something flat about the affirmative action. And it was actually pretty bad, like she said a terrible thing, these people couldn't do it without affirmative action. I mean, and literally the brakes, you could hear the screeching of the brakes all across Twitter as Democrats were like, wait, what? Now, the difference is, thank God, we may have confirmation bias. We may buy into a lot of that stuff, but we don't drink all of the Kool-Aid. We just don't. That's the good thing about Democrats. We're like cats. We're not going to follow you anywhere. We're going to make up our own mind and go over here and look at that. That kind of frustrates me sometimes, but it's really good because it means that we're a little bit harder to mesmerize, to, capture. What did she do? She got our trust. She groomed us, you guys. She groomed us. What happened was some of these other Democrat or other liberal posters were saying something's off with this channel. Like they were saying it even before she made that comment. This isn't right. Something's wrong with this channel, right? And they started calling it out and calling it out. And then it started an infighting, right? It started an infighting in the liberal Twitter sphere. Everybody was like, leave her alone. She's fine. No, she's not. It really did cause big problems. Well, after she made that comment about affirmative action, well, that got the rest of us to thinking, wait a minute, what's going on here? Maybe we should pull back. Maybe we should put some space between us and this account, which gave just enough room for the people investigating this account to pull back the curtains in a good way and discover this is some dude from America who knows who he's getting paid by, but his job is to do that, is to create chaos, a chaos agent, right? Wow. Okay. That set us back, right? Because here we all did, just like the Democrats have voted for Sinema, right? You voted for her, you phone banked for her, you door knocked for her, you got her in, and then all of a sudden, boom, she's a Republican. What just happened? We got played. What happened is we got played, right? So this is our education, you guys. This is why I'm doing this video. Educate yourselves. If somebody is if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true, right? If I'm over here telling you everything you want to hear, then I'm probably just telling you everything you want to hear, right? So look for alternate viewpoints. Use your own discernment, use your own brain, compare and contrast, because it's too easy to fall into this. It's truly professionally done. It's very easy to fall for it. It doesn't mean that anybody that falls for it is a big dummy. It means that they're really good at this. They're really, really good at this. This is military grade psychological operations, or psyops, military grade. Okay. So how do we're going to, what we're going to do? Well, luckily for us, I'm going to tell you the same thing I always tell you, which is there's laws on the books, and people like MTG and Boebert and Tuberville and Gates and all of those people, if they've broken a law, and Trump, if they've broken a law, they're going to get slapped with an indictment. And if the jury thinks they've broken a law, they're going to get slapped with a conviction and they're going to do time. That's what's going to save our butts right there, because we're going to put a lot of these people that are in power in jail or take them out of their powerful role. That's step one. Then step two, as the Democrats, hopefully I do see signs that they're waking up. And certainly, this private that ran across the DMZ is going to blow the military's mind in such a way that I promise you, the military, the entire military complex, meaning contractors and active duty and part-timers, National Guards and different things like that, all that's going to change seemingly overnight. You are going to have new psychological test. You're going to have, they're calling them a psychological readiness test is what they're calling them. And, when these soldiers have to go for their fitness evaluation, where they have to be under a certain weight or run or do whatever it is that is for that particular branch, they're going to be given a psychological fitness test. No lie. And the guides are showing me right now, some police departments already do this. The good ones give psychological fitness tests. I know this because I know a good friend of mine's son could never pass one of those psychological fitness tests. And honestly, to meet him, you would think he was just a regular old guy, nothing out of the ordinary. Now, I would say to you now, he's a Trumper and he's kind of not the most regular old guy, but 3-4 years ago, something about him was tipping the scale, tipping a red flag for these psychological fitness tests. So they work. You can't hide your predilection for violence or your predilection for certain things like having a chip on your shoulder, feeling that nobody treats you right and that you need to assert yourself, right? There's certain things that you just can't hide. Right? Or at this point, you can't hide. Maybe in another 50 years, people will learn how to hide it. But right now, they don't know how to hide it. So this is easily discernible. And then we're going to bring that same test back. Believe it or not, this is going to make some people crazy, but we're going to have our freedoms taken away. I don't care what anybody says. This is what I see coming. This is how we get out of this. And if this is how we get out of this, then I'm on the train. I'm good with it. We're going to do this same test in our schools, believe it or not. Now, perhaps this happens more in blue states than red states, because right now we're still a republic. Yes, we are a democracy, but we are a republic in the sense that our states get to have a lot of say in how they're operated. But I do think that the federal government carries a pretty good stick, if you understand what I'm saying, right? The federal government can say, we're going to withhold money from you. Now, so far, that hasn't really affected the red states too much because, for instance, if the federal government tells Texas, we're not going to give you any money because you've busted these EPA, this Environmental Protection Agency standards, you're stomping on them and kicking them and you're not paying attention, we're not going to give you this money. Texas is like, yeah, we don't want your money. Right. So they're like sanctions. Basically, the government sanctions the states to try to get them to act right. But some states are like, we don't need your money. Well, again, the same thing with sanctions is where the states have turned down the money has hurt us, has hurt the citizens. We don't want that health care. We don't want Medicaid for all in Texas. We don't want our people to have health care, right? We don't want good, clean drinking water. We don't want that. But where Texas and other states hold their hand out, right, is in these facilities that are being built, right? The roadways that are being built. So really what needs to happen is, and I think this is where we're going. Again, if Kamala Harris is president, this is the kind of stuff she's going to do. Not saying she's going to be popular, but somebody's got to do it. At some point, somebody's got to be the parent. Somebody has to say, this is out of control. Everybody to their room. And I don't want to hear another word out of you. Right? This is where we're going. So what I see happening is the government, the federal government saying, yeah, no, we're not giving you road money. We're not going to put that plant in your state. We're going to put it in this blue state. We don't care what you say. Vote us out. For right now, I got 3 more years on my presidential ticket and I'm going to do everything I want. Screw you. This is where we're going. This very black and white, very austere, and truly this place where, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, right? There was a time we grew up thinking you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. We all thought that was some kind of law. Turns out it was just common sense that all of us chose to live by, right? That common sense is out the window because it's not a law. So we've got to come back and make laws that say you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. You cannot lie about people. You cannot show naked pictures on the Congress floor. I mean, we never thought we would have to legislate this stuff, but the Republicans are showing us that we have to legislate everything, everything. If you leave one thing without a law behind it, they'll run with it. They'll exacerbate that loophole. So this is where we're going. This is what's going to happen. You guys got a heads up. Yeah, it's not pretty. It's not pretty. I'm sorry to tell you that, but it's not pretty. We have to be able to look at this problem. We have to be able to start dealing with it. And this is how we're going to do it. I feel like the schools, I feel like we're not going to win. I'm sorry to say this. I haven't said this on video yet because sometimes I just don't want to say things. We're not going to win this charter school race. Okay. The guides, that charter schools are something particularly really pissed me off. And they told me this about 3 or 4 months ago in no uncertain terms, like, get over it. Stop being mad about it. Stop stomping. Stop, get up off the floor, Susan. Throwing a fit and going to change nothing. Come on, get up. That's what they told me. And I'm going to tell you the same thing. Profit's going to win. They want the profit. They're going to get the profit. But here's where it's going. Here, stay with me. Stop screaming. Sit down. Calm down. Get a drink of water. It's going to be okay. Here's where it's going to change. It's the same thing with healthcare. If it's not profitable, they're not going to do it. It's not going to be profitable. The government is not going to let them cherry pick the suburban schools and not do something for the inner city schools. If your profit model works, then be our guest. Take over Houston, HISD, take it over. But we're going to hold you to the same rules that you held those school boards to. Okay? We're not going to change. We're not going to change the rules. We're not going to change the grading system for you. We're going to leave it all just like you say. Everything is equal. So we're going to give you a couple of years. And when you find out that your profit model doesn't work, that you literally cannot buy your way into a better school or better grades for that school, then you're going to walk out. You're going to walk away from that model. That's what's going to happen. They're going to walk away from it. They're going to be like, we don't want this. This is terrible. It's the same thing, right? That Republicans do, right? They get in the presidency, they run up the debt, they screw everything up, and then they get voted out of office. And then a Democrat gets in office, and then the Democrat fixes it all. And then all the, matrix are going up. And then the Republican gets in office because the Democrats fixed it. Goes down again. Repeat. Just look at the Democrats and Republican presidents. That's all you got to do. Same thing. They're going to squeeze all the money out of this, and then they're going to walk away from charter schools. Then the federal government will get it back. States will have very strict and very, it's weird. It's a strict protocols, but it's also very European in the way that we're going to be teaching, maybe kind of Montessori school, very open, because we're going to have a lot of different kids. There's a rise of autism. We're going to have a lot of different types of children in our schools, and we're going to have to find a way to really reach them all. And we're going to teach them kindness, and we're going to teach them discernment, and we're going to teach them to be good stewards of our environment. And we're going to teach them it's okay to be different. It's okay to be gay. It's okay to be trans. It's okay to be autistic. It's okay to be smart. It's okay to be a jock. It's okay to be whatever. Whatever you are, it's okay. We love you. That's where we're going. Now, this same paradigm shift also applies to healthcare. Believe it or not. Medicaid, Medicare, they've got their paws on it now, right? They've got all these, even though you have Medicaid, you got to pay $300 a month or whatever. And then you fall in the donut hole, and then you don't have any coverage. And that's all because we allowed it to be privatized. When they find out that they cannot make it profitably, They'll get out of that too. And the government will take over that. And then we'll have Medicaid for all, which is what I've been seeing, right? So yeah, are we in trouble? Undoubtedly. Undoubtedly. We're in a tough place. The positives are that the Democrats have their heads screwed on right. They're starting to not kick the football when it isn't there, Charlie Brown. They're starting to stand up for themselves. They're starting to understand messaging is important. They're going to go and claim their trophy when you do those ribbon cuttings for that new bridge or that new factory. Biden is going to be there with his dark Brandon aviator sunglasses, with his big scissors, cutting it right along with that Republican governor, because he's going to claim that credit. This is a new Democratic Party, you guys. Yes, it's late. It's 11th hour. And yes, the patient is on life support, but you know what? Better late than never, right? Better late than never. And this has been the energy of this whole year. The guides have told you we're going to get right to the cliff. Remember the debt ceiling? We told you is going to get right to the edge, but we're not going to go over it, but we are going to get right to the edge. Same energy, folks. Okay. Everything is going to be fine because the Democrats are going to get in office, and then we're going to start arresting and inviting and what is that word? Basically indicting and then convicting these Republicans. And then we're going to start climbing out of this dark hole that we seem to have fallen into. And then we're going to start setting some things forward to deal with these countries that would meddle in our freedom, that would come into our country via social media, via the internet, and create chaos and create division within. We're going to have to get serious. We're going to have to get real serious with these countries. And we're going to have to stop pussyfooting around. Nobody wants war. I don't want war. I'm actually really a big pacifist. However, if you come up in my house and hurt my people, I'm probably going to kick your ass. And that's where we need to be. Right? That's where we need to be, is we need to figure out who our real opponents are. And then we need to deal with them as such and stop giving them every kind of, maybe it was this, maybe they didn't mean this, or maybe we don't want. No, enough of that. We just need to call it what it is. And then we need to deal with them in a very straightforward way. And they'll get the message. And we'll pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and attend to our problems right here at home. Love our kids, love each other, bring all of us back together under one united front for once, without having to do it through a war, right? Wars unite people. They unite the country behind a single purpose. This is our lesson. Our lesson is, can we become united behind the single purpose of being citizens of the United States and being good wards of our country and being really good citizens of the world? This is our lesson. I think we can do it. I feel like we're poised to do it. I think this is a particularly hard lesson. But we're in it now, folks. There's no getting out. The best thing to do is to really just face it, deal with it, and get out the other side. Okay. Thanks for watching to the very end of this. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Take really, really good care of yourself. Okay. We'll talk soon. For entertainment purposes only,